All right, everyone. Welcome back to our weekly workshops. Today we have Thomas. Can you help pronounce the last name?
It's well, in Dutch it's Van den Essenburg.
Okay.
In English, it's whatever you make of it.
Okay. And 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 Thomas is the creator of a game called Stellar Warfare, and it's currently out on Steam right now.
Yeah.
One of the things we often do is we go into the public server, we look at what people are creating, we go on to the best of Unity, see what people are generating out of there, and we love to reach out to these developers, talk to them, ask them, how the game has progressed, how they got into game development, how they do what they do, and learn about their experiences. Because quite honestly, that is how wisdom is spread. If you think that you're going to be able to jump into your first game and knock it out, talk to someone who has done it, or talk to groups of people who have done first game, second game, third game, 10th game, and learn from their experiences, learn from their knowledge, and use that as a way to create a pool of information. So as you move forward with your career as a Unity developer, a game developer, you'll be able to hopefully overcome some of the challenges that other people haven't. So, Thomas, thank you for being a part of this. Thomas, can you real quick just give us an idea of what Stellar Warfare is, and then once we're done with that, we'll kind of dive back into how you got into game development.
Well, it's a real-time strategy game.
Mhm.
It's based on the old RTS games that I used to love when I was younger. Games like Red Alert, Homeworld. Yeah, I played those a lot, almost religiously as a kid.
Mhm.
Um, and I felt like it would be nice to have some more customization in there, but also keep the old aspects like base building, resource mining, the more classical approach to things. Because in the new RTS games, it's often okay, you have one base and you can upgrade that base with a few add-ons. And personally, I'm not a huge fan of that. But I did want to edit ships, add modules to ships, add different weapons to ships, have that type of customization. And that's basically what birthed Stellar Warfare. I'm trying to make a classic RTS game, but with some new and unique elements like space base building and the ship customizations.
Perfect, perfect. So, did you go to school for game development?
Yeah, I did go to, I don't know what it is in English, but in Dutch it's MBO. I guess it's trade school or something along those lines.
Hmm.
And I did an education there that's called application management and game development, because at the time game development wasn't that big yet. This was in, I don't know, 2000, around 2008 or something. So it wasn't really in schools yet. It wasn't, there weren't really courses for that yet. So they sort of did it as an afterthought. And there was one teacher there, his name was Martijn. And basically pretty much everything I know about game development came just from him being there, because he used to make Atari games, and he did like those pixel graphic waterfalls nature type things, but all by programming. Like he entered
Mm.
those contests, and I learned a lot from him, and enough to make my own games.
Okay, so you went to school for this. When you were finished with school, did you go work for a company building games? Did you do programming, app development? What happened after that? Or was it just you focused strictly on Stellar Warfare?
No, like I was brought up that you need to have like a steady income first and
Mhm.
foremost,
Mhm.
and game development isn't the most sure way of achieving that, especially in that time. So I kind of got into web development.
Mhm.
This was a trade school, so after that I did like a bachelor's degree in it was business marketing. It was like a jack of all trades type of business thing.
Mhm.
And around that time, people also asked me like, "Hey, you're good with computers, right? Can you make a website for me?" And those type of questions kept expanding, and I found myself doing web development for like 12 years, which was
Mhm.
completely unplanned, but that's how I rolled into doing that. After that, I did a year more of working for companies, also web development. And while I was doing that, I was getting basically bored of it. And it's like, yeah, I did an education to become a game developer. So let's just make a game because I have an idea for this game. And I started with that next to my full-time job, set up a Patreon so that people could donate and, help me if they liked old RTS games as well. And eventually I was able to start doing this part-time.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Is it crazy how you have one vision of how your life is going to pan out, and it's not really what you wanted, but it kind of grabs you and forces you into a different path, and inevitably you get where you want to get, but you learn so many good things along the way that actually helped you probably perfect a better product in the end than what you initially anticipated, because now, with the business degree, with the knowledge of everything else you had to do for the websites and the marketing and all this other stuff, I mean, if you just jumped right into game development, you may not have been able to use any of that.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think a lot of the stuff I learned, like dealing with customers, understanding how people interacted with the products that you made, I think that definitely helped in this course. I also feel like maybe if I started doing game development 10, 12 years sooner and skipped that whole web development phase, then maybe I would have been further along now than I am now. So who knows, it's impossible to say, I think. But some things are definitely useful. Yeah.
Yeah. What was it nerve-wracking to kind of say, all right, I'm going to focus specifically on Star Warfare. I don't want to do, programming for web development full time. I want to do this. I need to split my time. I need to take a pay cut in order to get this done, because I'm not going to be happy unless it's finished.
Yeah, that was. I mean, it wasn't that difficult because in the Netherlands you still get benefits when you're leaving a job, and I got some donations next to that, so it wasn't a super big struggle. It's not like I was worrying for my rent every month, but there were months where I was like, yeah, okay, I barely have any money right now, and I'm gambling everything on making this work. And if anything goes wrong, yeah, then I am pretty much screwed. So yeah, there was definitely some tense moments there. Yeah.
Hence the developer name, Tense Games, right there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's unrelated, but yeah.
So you ended
Could
up
have been
starting on Stellar Warfare. What year or what month did you start on it? Like, how long was the development cycle for you?
I think it was 2018, and
Okay.
then I did it just in the evenings after my full-time job. So I got home, I tried to do one thing or one task for Stellar Warfare to get it closer to a demo at that stage, and do that every day. So yeah, at the end of the week, if everything went well, then you did like 5, 6, 7 things, and you could share that with people, and you'd see if people liked it or didn't like it, and you could iterate on that.
So in essence, you were doing the agile methodology of workflow, where you listed everything out at the beginning of the week. You had your sprint, you were testing it, retesting it, sending it out to people, getting reviews, comments, putting it back on the board, adjusting, all the way through.
Yep.
And so you started this in 2018, and this is using Unity, correct? Or is it Unreal? Okay, using Unity.
I didn't use Unity before that at all.
Okay.
Like
what made you use Unity?
I have a friend who's also a game developer. And he said, like, yeah, basically you have two choices. You have Unity and you have Unreal. And Unreal at the time was a bit harder to use. Like, it didn't have all the new updates that were released in the last 2 years or something. And Unity was just easier to use, and I wanted to find something which was closer to Flash and C++, like the old ActionScript. It used to be really easy for me to make a game with that. Like, you had a main loop, you you drew an object, you put it in the scene, you added the script to it, and it moved. Like you already had a gameplay loop. It was really easy to get something on screen fast. And I think especially when you're starting out with game development, at least for me, I mean, everyone's different there, but for me, it really helps to see things on screen quickly and get some good feelings of achievement from getting that on screen, and then building upon that so that you have like a good ratio between stuff that has to be done that you don't really like doing and stuff that actually gives you reward in the sense of, okay, I accomplished something, I made something, it's been a good day.
Absolutely, absolutely. And everybody on here, if you do have a question, please put it in the chat, and we'll save those for like a moment or a break, and then we'll ask them from that point. But okay, so we start with Stellar Warfare, 2018. You're doing Agile method. You're working through this. What was the production length total to get it from the initial concept idea, starting to get the game working, to a point where it's demoed? You're showcasing it. You're putting online. You're letting people test it out.
That's difficult to say. I think as soon as I had something that resembled a game, you could move units and you could shoot at stuff, I set up a Patreon, and I like whoever supported me there, I also gave game access so that whenever I needed to do some testing, I could do testing with them. They could give me feedback, and I would have like a direct interaction with the potential end users of the product. So you get a lot of useful knowledge from that as well. And that was really fast. I think that happened after, I don't know, 200 hours or something along those lines. But I think in total, I must have spent between 2,000 and 5,000 hours on this project in total, because it's an RTS game, and there's like, we have 80 different ships in the game. We have 50 different weapons. We have 30 different modules. We have 50 base buildings. Everything needs to be balanced all the time. The mechanics need to be good. Quality of life things need to be good for RTS games. Luckily, I learned that 80% of the RTS players play single player. So it matters a lot less there that there's all the super competitive and like the instant reactions of the units and everything moving perfect. It's a little less important, I feel, when it's single player, because if it's a super competitive multiplayer, then it becomes really important. And I don't think I could have delivered a game that was so enjoyable if that was the end goal. If I basically wanted to make a space StarCraft, then I don't think that would have been realistic with the team and the manpower that I have now.
Oh, interesting. So can you give me an idea of what is the team? Is it just you? Is it other freelancers working on this? Because you mentioned a whole crap ton of assets, weapons, et cetera, et cetera. Are you sole developer, or is it more than one person?
I used to be completely a sole developer. Then someone joined the project, and he just liked the project and wanted to contribute. I have a Trello online to-do list with the tasks and the things that still need to be done. I gave him some standalone tasks first, just to see, okay, how's his coding style? How does he interpret the tickets? Is it what I'm looking for? And eventually he got completely on board, and he now does it next to his education. I can now pay him a little bit as well. So he's working on it currently, I think, like 5 hours a week. And there's another guy who's working on it for 20 hours a week. And there's another guy who's working on it between 5 and 15 hours a week as well. Gotcha. So we're currently 4 people who are working on it, and a whole bunch of other people have sent in things like voice lines. Then I, showed some footage of the game. Then I said, okay, we need these units, we need these quotes. If you guys want, you can record it with your microphone, send in your voice lines, and if we like it and we think it fits the game, then we'll actually use it in the game. And that way we also got like a bunch of unit quotes, unit voice lines, and yeah, so it's pretty much a community effort there.
That's awesome. That's incredible. That brings me to the social media side of this. Like, what steps have you taken to promote your game and showcase it to people to where they do want to contribute? They want to contribute to the Patreon. They want to, wish list it and do early play tests and betas and things like that. What steps did you take to get to that point?
Basically what I used to do and what I no longer have time for and what I'm looking to outsource, but it's pretty difficult to outsource, is whenever at the end of the day I was done with something, I created something, I would make a screenshot. I used a GIF creator to create like a short catchy GIF with lots of explosions or whatever, so that it's like really like an eye catcher. And then I would just spread it wherever I could. Facebook groups of games that I was a fan of, Discord groups, basically just yeah, try to make it reach as many people as possible.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
And I really don't enjoy that. I think but I think it's necessary.
It is a job, isn't it?
It is a job, yeah. Like that part is it. I think it's horrible.
Right.
But I think it's really necessary, and I think without that it's really difficult to get the traction that you need to get the proper audience for a game.
I gotcha. Would you be open to possibly sharing some footage of Stellar Warfare for us, some behind the scenes, give us an idea of how this thing works, so everybody on here can see how it operates?
Yeah, I haven't actually prepared anything of the
Oh,
sort.
no worries, no worries. It's just people love to be able to see the actual development of what you created, whether it's like a YouTube video or if it's, we could share your Steam page or whatnot. But if you happen to have anything, we could take a look at it as well, just to get an idea of your process. While you're setting that up. Were the assets that were created for your game, did you purchase those from the Unity Asset Store? Did you purchase those from something like what was CubeBrush or some of these other sites? How did you get a lot of these assets to make your games, or did you guys build them yourself?
I bought a bunch of those modular asset packs,
Mm-hmm.
and I've replaced a lot of their textures. I created the skyboxes were created by also a fan of the project, and based on that, I made several variations. I polished the stars. There were some Unity assets like rocks, and then I would find an asteroid texture online or a rock texture online, apply that there, and then you have the rocks and the things that can be harvested from the minerals. And I think it's yeah, especially as an indie developer, it's smart to use those and make variations of those to save yourself some time, because I think if you're completely dependent on an artist, especially if it's a joint project and you're not actively basically they're fellow entrepreneurs, sort of fellow game
Mm-hmm.
developers.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna wait on them to get all the models and get all the graphics done while they also have a full-time job or a family or whatever, I think it's gonna take way longer, and you're just not gonna get realistic results, or at least I don't see how. I mean, there could be tons of ways in which it's still very viable and still very good, but I just haven't found it yet.
Mm-hmm. No, totally, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. And let's see, while you're pulling this up, if you guys have a chance, we have Stellar Warfare
Yeah, you can open it
Twitter.
on Steam, and I also have the YouTube link of the channel.
And then really quick, so I can share this screen right here, and you guys can see the game right here on Steam. And footage-wise, you can see that it is this great little RTS. And come on, Steam.
Likes the buffer.
Yeah, it really does. So you get to design your own fleet, build your own economy.
Yeah, you currently have 10 different ship design slots. It used to be 5. And you can use those to choose light, medium, or heavy ships. And you can equip those with a various amount of weapons. Like some ships have 1 weapon slot, some ships have 5 weapon slots. Module slots is a maximum of 4. And the ships all differ in speed, health, cost, power cost, metal cost. There's variations there as well. And yeah,
Okay.
it just allows for a lot of customization.
All right. So you start the game up. What is the premise? Is there levels? Is there stages? Or is it just like you jump into one battle? Do you earn an economy to purchase enough ships or customize certain types of ships? Do you have to unlock them? How does the gameplay work?
It's pretty much like a classic RTS game in the sense that we have like the regular skirmish mode, which I think is the core of RTS games. You build a base, your opponent builds a base, you build power plants, you build refineries, you gather resources, you pass through the tech tree to unlock medium ships, unlock heavy ships, and basically because in between games you can design different types of ships. I usually get an anti-light ship, anti-medium, anti-heavy, anti-building, some raiders that are fast, some aircraft carriers, stuff like that. But they're all different ship frame sizes. The light ships are unlocked by default when you enter the game, but the medium ships need to be unlocked. So you need to progress further in your economy. You need to either rush towards medium ships or go for the more economic, safe approach, be more of a turtler, or you could try to rush out 10 light ships and just try to do economic damage as soon as possible. So there's a lot of ways in which you can play the game. So yeah, it's basically like how Red Alert played, but you design your own units and you can also find crates in game that give you these different ship frames, different types of weaponry, different types of modules. So they're not something you can buy. They're literally something that if you kill an enemy ship, then sometimes it drops a loot crate and you can fly over it. And then you get either a new ship frame, a new weapon, or a new module. And you can use that in between games in your ship editor to refine your fleet.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the RTS, and I granted I haven't played an RTS in quite some time, but usually when you start the level, enemies all the way over here, you're over here, and you know you're building up resources while you're deploying your fleet out to different areas. It's usually not all at one time. You need to mine things in the background and build up a bigger economy so that you can build more assets. But so once you send these ships, once you get this to a certain point, is the enemy X amount of distance away, and then you guys engage? Are you sending all your fleet out at one time, or is it kind of that comes in waves from the enemy as they're building up their economy as well? Like, how does the combat actually work?
Yeah, that depends on how you build your fleet as well. Like you can make a raider fleet with lots of fast modules on your ship that increase the engine speed. So basically you take a ship that's as fast as possible,
Mhm.
Then you add modules to it to make it even more fast, and then you put anti-building weaponry on it, for instance.
Mhm.
So you can use that to pretty early in the game do sort of a base rush, try to snipe economic buildings,
Mhm.
or maybe even snipe the shipyard, and in that way try to prevent your opponent from building up a fleet in the first place.
Right, right.
But you can also go for the economic approach and take map control, take the neutral structures that are there that generate economy, guard those, and just crawl your way towards
Mhm.
the opponents until you have enough resources to build a big fleet and then attack with that. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of different tactics you can employ. You can even send a beacon ship behind the enemy base and then teleport your entire fleet towards that beacon ship so that you can circumvent all that player's defenses, because it
Mhm.
is full 3D. So you could send that beacon ship all the way down underneath the enemy and then up again behind him, and then jump your entire fleet that way.
Gotcha, gotcha. And as far as your player AI goes per ship, I'm assuming that each ship has a whole serialized component field of how many hit points it has, how fast its rate of fire is, how much damage it does. But logic wise, is it looking specifically for like if an enemy comes within a certain distance and running on update, it detects that the enemy is close enough? Does that now enemy become the true target? And it starts constantly attacking that. How does the logic of your ship work when it comes to actually interacting with the enemy?
Um, it sort of depends on if it's multiplayer or single player. If
Mhm.
it's multiplayer, then your opponent controls the ships completely, and it just checks whichever ship is closest in proximity. It can
Mhm.
check that every X seconds instead of every frame, because if you do
Gotcha.
it every frame, then of
It's
course
kind of
it's gonna,
a little
yeah,
heavy.
yeah, like if you have like 500 different entities on screen and it has to check all 500 every frame, yeah, then the frame rate's not going to be great. um, so yeah, it just makes a list, it updates the list every few seconds, and it uses that list to make temporary smaller lists
Mhm.
of enemies that are in range,
Mhm.
and based on that it will start automatically targeting whichever is closest.
Gotcha.
But you can always manually override it, of course, as well.
Mhm. And when the enemy or your ships or the enemy ships start coming into contact, do they maintain their current trajectory, or do they start encircling each other? Do they slow down to attack? What's the idea behind how they interact with each other as well? Or do they just go to where you tell them to go, regardless of if the enemy and them are fighting each other?
Um, it takes there's, if you have multiple weapons on your ship, they have
Mhm.
multiple engagement ranges. So like you could have a 300 range weapon and a 500 range weapon. So it would always move towards the 300 range weapon with
Mhm.
some buffer there as well. So it's actually more like within 290 range,
Mhm.
so that all the weapons can actually fire on the target.
Gotcha.
If the ship is just moving from one side of the map to the other and an enemy passes overhead, then only the top turrets will fire.
Mhm.
Unless it's a guided missile, then it can fire both
Mhm.
up and down.
Yeah.
So if the ship is just moving and there's a target moving above it and a target moving below it, then it will start firing at both of those ships at the same time
Mhm.
until you give a manual order to attack the top ship, for instance, and then the ship will rotate up and bring all its weapons to bear, unless it's a carrier, in which case it it will still rotate that way, but it will send bomber squadrons, and those bomber squadrons will fly around the enemy ships more dynamically.
Mhm.
And we want to add more of those dynamic type of movements.
Mhm.
But in terms of efficiency, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense just yet. It would just be for the visuals, basically.
Did you happen to find, because usually RTSs are also based on sort of a 2D plane,
Yeah.
StarCraft, World, Warcraft, not World of Warcraft, just regular Warcraft, Command and Conquer, 2D plane, enemies set their position, kind of like a tower defense, mobile tower defense kind of concept. But yours is fully 3D. That's three-dimensional. They could be here, anywhere on the Z axis, as well as the X and Y. Did that bring into development some new, I guess, challenges that you didn't anticipate?
Yeah, definitely. I've done what I thought was logical. Another game that has full 3D movement is Homeworld. And whenever you needed to move ships there, then you usually need to do 2 clicks. 1 click to set the general direction and 1 to set the depth. I wanted to remove that, so I created my own controls where you can hold Alt and scroll to set the depth. But otherwise, if you would just right click somewhere, it would just move along the same axis as if it was Red Alert or some other RTS. It would put the ships into a formation. So the ships would be above each other and next to each other and more like in a 3D configuration.
Mm-hmm.
But if you would move all of those via the minimap or just via the map itself, it would stick to the same plane.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that was really important that if you used ASWD and or mouse edging to the screen, that it would all work like Red Alert worked, because I see that as one of the most classical, at least in my mind, RTS games. But not everybody is a big fan of that. So we're also in the process of making more like a Homeworld type control system so
Mm-hmm.
that people can choose between what I've made and yeah, more Homeworld like controls.
Gotcha. Elvin, you had a couple questions. Do you want to turn on your mic and go ahead and ask your questions?
Yeah, in the meantime, I could share my screen if I know
Sure,
how
sure.
to.
It should be on the very bottom. You are set to co-host.
Yeah,
So just a
screen.
few questions. So where are you? So with the ship development or ship customization in between the matches, are you able to set it up where all the units that you can build in game are strictly light units or heavy units, or is there like an auto balance where it'll always have like 3 medium, 3 heavy? That way, you'll never be at a complete disadvantage.
No, that's completely your own choice.
Okay,
I
that's pretty
personally
cool.
have, out of the 10 slots, I personally have 5 super cheap light ships because I like to,
That
be
harass.
able, yeah, and be prepared for any situation. So one of them is dedicated anti-light, one is anti-medium, one anti-heavy, one anti-building, and one as an AoE weapon. So for those basic situations, I have those. I can actually, I don't know if you guys can see
Yep, we
my
we can
screen
Yeah.
see your
now.
screen. Yep.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. Like these are the basic ships that I have.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
Medium killer, like really
Yeah.
imaginative names, but you can name
Straight
them
to the point.
yourselves. Yeah. And you can choose a bunch of weapons. These are projectile weapons, these are missiles, and these are beams. In the new update, these will be color coded as well, because you can see here the damage types, what they're actually good against. So you have this beam is good against heavy, this beam is good against light, and this beam is good against medium. And you can, yeah, switch the weapons up.
Nice too.
You have a bunch of different colors. This is my bomber carrier. I like to have this one because the bombers can't actually be targeted by regular weapons. They need to have either fighter carriers or they need to have iron domes, which are basically space AA, I guess, like these. So that really, if there's a standstill, I could quickly crank out a bunch of these and hopefully, make it so that the opponent can't really counter that. I mean, they
Yeah.
still can if they see it coming on time, but
That's awesome. Is there, in terms of like the movement throughout the scene, or I guess the game, do you have like a mini map to help you pan through the map a bit quicker, kind of like StarCraft does?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. And then when you were designing this game, were you going for a more like macro oriented or a more micro oriented style? And what were some of the difficulties you found in achieving that?
I would definitely say more of a macro type style, um, because I think if I went for full micro, then it would have been very important to make everything run completely right. And I'm not a very mathematical programmer. So if you want StarCraft levels of excellency in terms of unit control, yeah, that's going to take a whole bunch of time and effort to get that right. And I just don't think that's realistic when there are so many other things that also need to be done.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very cool. So what are we looking at right here?
Right now I placed the power station and 2 storage facilities are queued.
Mhm.
It's currently building. I don't know if you guys can hear the sounds. I think I've
No sound
turned them
effects,
on,
but we could see what you're doing.
okay. So you need these storages to increase your storage capacity here. And I like to quickly get medium ship frames as soon as possible, because then here I can build surveyors, these ants, and basically these are all light ships.
Mhm.
And these are the 4 medium ships I just unlocked by unlocking the medium ships. Heavy ships is going to take a while because it takes 1400 of both the resources, and I don't have that yet.
Are you using the Amplify shader or are you using the VFX the shader graph?
I'm using the default Unity shader. I'm not
Okay.
sure what it's called.
Yeah, shader graph, shader graph. So are you then so are you using standard or are you using like the universal render pipeline for this?
To be honest, I don't even know. Like I
Okay.
literally don't know.
Okay.
It's I know in terms of programming, I know things about efficiency. I know things about how to get stuff to work. In terms of super technical terms and in terms of shaders, in terms of like that's really not my cup of tea. It
Gotcha.
starts hurting my head whenever I think of those phrases, and that's why I was like, yeah, okay, I need other programmers to also help me on this
Right.
project, because yeah, they're just my skill set is more getting stuff to work, making stuff look good. I can do all the programming, but if I had to choose several pipelines, it would go more along the lines of, oh, okay, I need a certain effect on my screen. I
Mhm.
will look around how to do that certain effect, and it would say, okay, you need this pipeline or you need that pipeline to make that effect work. And then I would be like, oh, okay, so I guess I need that.
Yeah, yeah,
That's my
absolutely.
thought process. I just Google what I need, and it worked so far.
Gotcha, gotcha. So we just had this cinematic that came with the enemy flying into the screen. What happened there?
Yeah, I added a cinematic camera. So if you press C,
Mhm.
it will focus on not really a random unit. This happens to be a surveyor, but there's a certain chance attached to what it will actually focus on.
Mhm.
It will focus ships that are actually in combat first. Then it will focus your own ships, and if they're not active, then it will focus the enemy ships. And if there are no ships, then it will focus on your buildings, preferably your combat buildings. And that's how it goes through that logic.
Mhm.
And there's also a chance attached to it, so that it's like 60% chance to actually follow that logic and like a 40% chance to have a more random logic.
Gotcha. So what is occurring right now?
Yeah, there's a heavy corvette with double torpedo launchers that's attacking my shipyard. I don't have any defenses right now, so I'm just going to build a couple of gauss ticklers, and they're anti-light, so they should be able to deal with this. Additionally, I also have a shipyard missile upgrade that I could also build right now. And that will start firing at this target as well. Sometimes the camera goes through objects, of course.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, the power station is fairly damaged from that attack just now. I can
Mm-hmm.
upgrade that with a shield and give it some health regeneration as well, because I don't want to lose this. This one's already at half health, so this should be fine. Oh, this is the wave game. This is the wave defense mode, by the way. This is not regular skirmish.
Mm-hmm.
That means that enemies will spawn every X minutes. You guys can probably see it. I can't because the
Yeah.
zoom overlay is over it.
2 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that means that in 2 minutes, the next wave will come. And currently there are 10 different waves of increasingly more difficult enemies. And after those 10 waves, you get a boss ship that you have to defeat. And if you've managed that, then you won this game mode. So this is more of a single player game mode, but we also added a co-op mode to it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can play with a friend and you can just turtle, make a nice base, and don't really have to worry about all the other aspects of RTS games, like managing your economy and your units at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
doing raids, attacking enemy structures. In this game mode, it's more just defend, make sure the few economic structures that you have don't die, and just stack up to, to get a proper defense up and running yourself as well.
Gotcha. So at any given time, like when this game really starts getting heavy, like how many ships will you generally have on screen?
Well, we ourselves think that it sounds little, but that 40 ships is usually enough per player.
Mm-hmm.
But because the ships are so impactful and they have a bunch of weapons on them, it usually makes it so that there's more than enough going on screen. But people can override that up to, I think, 140 units if they want to. But it's still Unity. It's an RTS made in Unity, and Unity is not as efficient as a custom solution for RT. Like if you made everything yourself, then it would be a lot more efficient than Unity, even if you apply all the optimizations that you can.
Mm-hmm.
But Unity is still faster in development, because if I had to do everything here completely from scratch, then it would have taken me a lot longer to get to this stage. I think
Right.
4 or 5 times longer. I mean, there's a reason that for RTS games in general, there's usually bigger teams
Mm-hmm.
working on it.
Yeah, absolutely. In developing this game, were there any like procedures, tips, tricks that you would encourage people to learn if they plan on building an RTS game?
Well, I would say if you're using Unity and it's a regular RTS game and not a space RTS game,
Mm-hmm.
then I would definitely get the A-Star pathfinding package,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a lot more efficient than Unity's one, and it's been around since Red Alert. Like the old Red Alert also used that, so it's been developed for a very long time, and I think that says something for the quality of it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would definitely get that. And also it depends on how experienced of a programmer you are.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're not the best programmer, just get stuff working. Just
Mm-hmm.
make stuff look good. You'll notice some bottlenecks. You'll notice some things not running very efficiently, and then you need to use the profiler to figure out what's going wrong. But at least you'll have something. But if you are a very good programmer, then I think from the start you should think about the architecture. You should think about how often lines of code are being executed. Actually, beginners can also do that. do get component things, for instance,
Mhm.
as infrequently as possible.
Mhm.
Um,
So are you
so yeah,
primarily
really watch efficiently.
so are you primarily sticking with like events and delegates then versus like running a get component on anything at this point?
No, we're currently using, well, we're starting to use cached get components,
Mhm.
but generally speaking, I would just try to get the components at the creation of a game object,
Okay.
or even make it public and just drag and drop the reference in the Unity editor,
Mhm.
so that we don't really need to get any components anyway,
Gotcha. I hear
because
you.
they're already set before the game.
Mhm. Mhm. I see. Very
Let's
cool.
see.
Now it looks like you're starting to get into this game.
Yeah, I'm gonna build a few repair ships. It's starting to get a little bit trickier as well. I could upgrade the shipyard a little bit more with an autocannon and a beam, but that's about it for now.
Do,
Shielding.
do you spend holidays and weekends out in the sun thinking of what new ship you're going to be building?
Oh no, I don't come outside anymore. That's for people who have money and
That giant
who can
hot
afford
thing
to.
in the sky. What is that?
Yeah, exactly. That usually burns my eyes. My
it's
skin is so
so
pale.
it's so bright. Why did it was it always this bright?
Yeah, exactly. No, but like um yeah, I do. I mean, whenever I'm not thinking of any game development related things, or whenever I'm going outside, then inevitably I will start thinking about it anyway. Like, okay,
Mhm,
I have this idea for this project, and
mhm.
it's yeah, new ship ideas, new modding ideas, stuff like that. Yeah.
Gotcha. And as far as like the success of this project, is this a project that you're going to continue to work on? Are you going to stop at a certain point? Like what's the future vision of Stellar Warfare?
Right now, there's a bunch of main tickets, like you said earlier. We're sort of using like a Scrum approach, where every
Mhm,
week we check, okay, what's most important to actually get done, and the next goal is a full version 1 release,
mhm,
because I mean, it's fully playable, it's enjoyable. People can get it on Steam. People have been getting it on Patreon for a long time, and the majority of them really like it. So in general, it should be fine. But for me, there are some things that I still want to improve and make better. For instance, if I open a menu here, then sometimes if I move it like this, you see the health bar go over this ship. Those are
mhm,
like things that don't bother me. Well, they bother me enough to not want to release the game while those things are still in there.
mhm,
So I've made a whole list of those things. I want to add modding to it. There is already modding in it, but I want to enhance that a little bit, make it a little bit better. So yeah, I want to fix all those things before I actually release it fully. And because I now have a bunch of programmers, I have a few programmers working on it, and that means that I can also think about the future a little bit. So I'm
mhm,
also setting up some new projects here and there. I mean,
mhm,
this remains my main priority: getting this done and making it good, basically.
mhm.
But as soon as it's released, you have no idea what it's going to do. It could either become a lot bigger, or it could crash and burn, and uh, then my income would be gone with that as well. And it's difficult.
Right.
Yeah, and it's difficult enough to pay rent, pay the bills, and Patreon supporters are actually the main
Mhm,
source of reliableness for me.
mhm,
um, but yeah, to that end, I also want to set up some other projects, so that the moment this one's done, I'm also half done with the next one. I've talked to over 40 different publishers for this
mhm,
project,
mhm.
and I know a few of them yeah, I became friends with a few of them, and I also said like, yeah, you want to make sure that once you're done with a project, that you don't need to start from scratch
Right.
for the next project, because then you'll leave a 2 or 3 year gap in which you need to start working a full-time job again in order to pay your bills. And that's also not good for the game development, even of Stellar Warfare. So even investing in the future, make sure that I can keep working on this in a reliable fashion long term.
Well, this is a beautiful game. This is really nice to see. I mean, just the eye candy
Thanks.
itself is really nice. I feel like I'm just watching the best parts of a space movie right now. It's pretty awesome. For the students in the program and people who are learning how to become Unity developers, what advice would you give them if they are planning on building their own video game?
Finish it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the main one. Like, work on it consistently and actually finish it.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of game developers and a lot of programmers, essentially, because artists don't really make video games. That might, make some people not like that statement, but
Right.
like, they're not the ones that actually make it work. They make it look good, and it's definitely necessary, but without all the functionalities in it, you don't have a game.
Mhm.
Of course, without art, you also don't have a game. But games like Minecraft, for instance, they don't have the most top-notch visuals either. So it's getting everything to work is the main priority. So I would work towards a demo. I would, if you just have a game idea, I would, learn programming, because being reliant upon others to do the programming for you is likely not to work out, even regardless of what they say. So you need to work on it yourself every day. Make a plan. Okay, this is what I want to make. Don't make it too elaborate. Don't make like a complicated RPG or an RTS game as a first game is also a bad idea. But keep it contained. Make a list of, okay, this is what I need to do for it, and then just every day do a little bit of that until it's actually done. And with done, I mean add sounds to it, add a menu to it, a score screen, make sure that it's actually playable and that you release it somewhere. It doesn't have to do well, but you have to at least release it so that you get in touch with all the different aspects that are needed for it.
Yeah.
And you better count on it that you have to do everything yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, people offer to help, but in my experience, 80% of them, it just doesn't pan out. Like, they either do less or they do a lot in the first 2 days and then they disappear. So it's very difficult.
Makes total sense. Makes total sense. Well, this is wonderful. What a great job.
Thanks.
And everybody else on here, if you just tuned in, just hop on over to Steam and take a look at Stellar Warfare if it's something you're interested in. Definitely, we encourage you guys to check it out. If I'm not mistaken, last time we spoke, you even sent us a few Steam codes to hand out. Let me just go ahead and pull some of those up. 1 second. Let's see.
I'm not gonna win this match, by the way. So, and whenever that happens, doesn't matter if it's me or someone else. They usually just enter cinematic camera and just watch until the game is over. The colors of the projectiles are usually significant as well. Green ones are anti-light, blue ones are anti-heavy, and the orange ones are anti-medium. So you can sort of tell what your opponent is equipped with, but it
Mhm.
also says so in the tooltip, so that you can, if you see a very efficient ship, you can build your own ship based on those ideas that you notice there.
Is there a tell for to tell if the ship is light, medium, heavy?
They're the icons. I disabled them, but I enabled them again. The round ones are mediums. The triangles are lights, and the heavies are squares. Here's the first heavy. There wasn't a heavy yet, but this is the first one.
And I guess you could tell kind of by size, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Definitely.
generally speaking, sometimes there's not much difference between a medium and a heavy ship in size.
Yeah,
There goes the
you could
shipyard.
zoomed out like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Awesome.
and there's
Thank you.
also these super ships, and these are like 3 times bigger than the heavies. So those are really big.
Let's see. Tell you what, I'll probably look later today to go find those um, discount or the Steam
Steam keys.
codes. Yeah, so I can
Yeah.
pass those out to the people out here. But yeah, man, this was incredible. I really appreciate you taking the time to showcase this game, and I'm
Yeah,
sad
happy
to
to
see
be
that
here.
you're getting wrecked right now.
Yeah, I was getting wrecked. I just entered a new game mode to show off one of the super ships,
Mm-hmm.
and this is another game mode called base assault, in which you're basically the AI spawns a base and you have to destroy it. They have some reinforcements. So there's a few different both single player and multiplayer game modes in there.
Very cool. All right, guys. Well, so if you want to hop on to check out Stellar Warfare, again, the link is right here, and I'll post up those codes onto Discord. Basically, be like first come, first serve, whoever gets it, and from there, go from that point. And yeah, man, this was incredible. Thank you for taking time out of your day to showcase this game, because this is quite phenomenal.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure to. It's always nice to talk about it and share your experiences. So that's good.
Mhm, mhm, absolutely. If there's no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And other than that, guys, you guys have a great weekend.